Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to yet another edition of the Lambom Show. Today's Wednesday, October 26th, 2022. And we are on our regular Wednesday program. Wednesdays, we devote to talking about African immigrants and African development. And like I always say, I've always been here or often been here with a friend. He says I should refer to him as my homeboy, so that's the term I'm going to be using going forward. But
Yes, yes.
if you have not been to this show before, then you have missed Ed Okpa. He's a global affairs analyst, but with real emphasis on African immigrants and development of Africa. And since we generally just go with the current events, what is current today is the new Prime Minister of the UK. And I think with the new Prime Minister, it's unfortunate that the UK is having Prime Ministers every other week. But the thing that came up this week, which was interesting, was the fact that Rishi Sunak is said to have Indian heritage. So it's interesting that this is somebody who is a British national, British citizen who was born and bred in the UK. He went to school there. His parents, I think his father was born in Kenya and the mother was born in Tanganyika, I think Tanzania. And the grandparents came from India, settled in, Kenya, and then the parents traveled to the UK. The father is a medical doctor and the mother is a pharmacist. And he has grown all his life, 42 years old in the UK. And by some, I don't want to say stroke of luck, but a string of events, he's become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And I've been struck by the fact that people keep referring to him as the first colored person. And I'm wondering whether the rest of the people who have been prime ministers did not have a color, or why are they referring to this one as a first colored person? But besides the point that has been made often these days is about his heritage. And like I put it in my teaser today, one thing that came up that was very funny is the fact that one of the memes that featured, they said PM Rishi Sunak, the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, I think Sadiq is from Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken. And then they ended up saying Africans are still in church binding and casting evil spirits. And that got me thinking, yes, Africans are in church. So a picture came up of the new prime minister lighting candles around his home. I hear that's an old picture that I think some years back. But he's also a Hindu. And so I was wondering why the thing about Africans are still praying in church. But that took me back that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who just got fired before the Prime Minister, I think he's of Ghanaian heritage. And there was something about, as a black man in the UK, you did not want to identify with us black people. Now look at how you have been treated and all that. And so I'm wondering what we really want. But the point we want to talk about today is this. What can African immigrants learn from Indian immigrants? And I think there's a lot to be learned, but Okpa thinks different, that no, there's nothing. In fact, he says nothing. And I'm wondering why the vice president of this country is an Indian American. A long list of CEOs that was put out. Somebody put out a long thing, and Indians. They're all over and are making great strides. So I think there's something that they have in store that we Africans should look up to them and say, hey, there's something here. But Ed, you think different. What's your take?
Look, I'm happy for individuals making strides in their life. That's what you have to do. But India is still a C country. When we were in school, nobody copies from a C student. If you copy from a C student, you're going to get a C minus or D or F. I will not copy from an Indian. Individuals, I know some of them. I have associated with them, but there's nothing about Indians that I'm going to say as an African, even as an American, that I'm going to copy and paste. I don't. Again, not their religion, not the way they dress, not anything about. I mean, again, I know them. Yeah, hey, why can't they copy from me? I'm also successful. I think it's a sign of, a sense of poverty when an individual gets a job as CEO of something. They can be at Microsoft and Bank of America. They don't own those institutions. They're just trading hours for dollar. You know, Indian banks in America. Who's putting money in it? I'm concerned about people in India as opposed to in India that got away. Just like, Africans, when you see an African who is head of a UN or a Secretary General or an agency like the World Health Organization or the the World Trade Organization, Africans, go to the beer parlor and celebrate. Come on. What, like my wife always said, what has that got to do with the price of bread? Okay, I think the Western world has learned a lesson to say, let's just give these people from poor countries something to make them feel good about, but we still control, we still pull the strings about what happens. India is still a very poor country. Go to India, it's filthy, it's more slum looking like than Lagos, Nigeria. Okay, so if these Indians are so successful running all these companies and everybody's jumping up and down about, why don't they go to India and do it? They can't. There are more companies in Israel that are listed on the stock exchange than you have companies from India. Okay, so they're good to do what they do, but the guy in London, I mean, geez, he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe he speaks the language. That's fine, but he's never lived in India. He's not going to do anything for India. He's not going to turn the British people to go ahead and I'm in Indian and we're going to all wear the same thing they wear and all that. He's not. Have you ever seen him dressed like that? Let him dress like that and go to work. Then the prime ministership, the queen, the king now will say, hey, you out of here. Okay. If he say he's in India, let's see where the things these people wears and go to be the prime minister of 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 UK, and then let's see how long he will last. He probably will have more shorter days than the woman who just left. So I mean, Sarkozy, French president, his parents were immigrants from some either Bulgaria, or Romania, or some kind of stuff. Who remembers him now? Who remembers Sarkozy? So what I'm saying is I'm concerned about the Nigerian in Nigeria. Is their life improving? The Cameroonian in Cameroon, the Indian in India, as opposed to some of us who have gotten out as citizens of this other country, and then people are jumping up and down because, I mean, it's fine to be happy for what they're doing. If that is an inspiration, do it. But India is not going to be like UK. India is not going to be like America. Because India is, I mean, you talk about Kamala Harris. Oh my God, okay, she doesn't even know what she is, whether she's a black woman or she's Indian. The political people use these things and they throw it at us, and some of us that are very marginal in understanding what this is all about and jump up and down, and we just, oh, my people is there. What has that got to do? Since Kamala Harris got over there, it has the life of an Indian or a black person improved because we now have somebody who's a white. When Obama was there, hey, that's the highest office. What did Kenya get out of it? What did the black people get out of it? So I'm just saying, let us focus on what it is we can do for our own selves, in our own country, in our own geography, because that's more important than celebrating the fact that an Ethiopian is over the World Health Organization, a Nigerian is over the World Trade Organization, a Nigerian is at the World Bank, a Nigerian is at UN, a Nigerian is at IMF. Excuse me? What are we missing with this? So back to your original question, I will not copy anything from India. India is a C country. I will not copy from a C student. I will copy from an A student. Maybe I'll get a B.
Okay? Yeah, but again, I know it's kind of a nuanced question, but I believe while your point, by the way, I think in my intro I forgot to also say that China has 1.4 billion people.
Mm-hmm.
India has 1.3. The
Okay.
entire continent of Africa has 1.2. The
Okay.
entire continent.
Yeah, but we have 54
So
different husband and wife.
different countries, yeah, yes. So, but again, I think for the sake of this conversation, let us not compare a country to a continent, but let us say that that's why I decided to move away from
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
yes, Africa and India. But
look,
let's
look, when I was in college in Nigeria, I had an Indian professor. Okay, I haven't even had an interaction outside of most Nigerians. I had the first white person that I ever met was when I was taking a architecture, what they call design something. Okay, she taught us design concepts, how to do lines and stuff. It was a Polish woman. I think she was married to a Nigerian. And then in my final year, towards my final year, because I had skipped a physics class because I had a soccer injury and I had to take that in order to graduate. It was an India professor. I was not impressed. I wasn't impressed even then. And then I came to Dallas and I met some of them and I've lived with some of them, and that's fine. But this global attachment, this global glory. Oh, Indians are these, Indians are this. Okay, fine. Whomever wants to motivate and inspire themselves based on that, they are welcome to do it. But I'm not about that. I'm about institutions that people that are successful create in their community, because those institutions are the ones that are going to uplift people, not because one individual has succeeded in getting a job and then all of a sudden everybody's clapping and dancing, the beer parlor is full of people chanting and cheering and chest beating. Again, we have been on earth. India, again, go look at the per capita income. If India was a country in Africa, it will not make the top 25 on per capita. In fact, Equatorial Guinea per capita is how many times bigger than that of India? Morocco is.
yeah,
Okay?
but I mean again,
No. That's the measure. That's
yeah.
the number. In fact, okay, when it comes to the world, are people more concerned about China or they about India? I mean, you just give a number, 1.2 and 1.3 and 1.4. People are more concerned about China than they are about a communist country. Let me even make this point. India is the largest democracy in the world.
Yeah.
And since independence in 1948, they have never had any, wars or anything. I mean, they've killed Indira Gandhi and did all of that stuff. But they have really never had anything major, cool stuff. Okay? India reminds me of Nigeria. They just want to be individual successes and show off these things they do. So just like Nigeria is the largest democracy, or if you want to call it that, in Africa, what do Nigerians do? A Nigerian gets a job in an organization. Oh my God, look at what it is. That's what people are. Indians don't even do that. The piece I sent you this morning, a lot of Indians that I know that techie people, if they say Edward, India has a long way to go. Okay, India, like I said, 85% of people in India don't even have clean water. They don't have water system. They don't have sewer system. They still pee on the street like everybody in Nigeria. If you go to their street, it's just as filthy, as smelly, and everything. But I'm happy that they get out. When they get out, they do well, just like most Nigerians get out. But go home, go to India, and build those companies, and see whether you will succeed. This guy that is prime minister, go to India to be prime minister of India and see whether you will last 1 or 2 days. So again, I'm not copying from India. There's nothing there that I'm happy for what they're doing, but I will not. If you pay me to go live in India, I will give you the money back.
Yeah, but so I think you are now looking at, well, that's what you are, a global affairs analyst. But I think that there's a lot that India itself, just looking at India, in spite of those dirty cities and all that, go to healthcare. There are many Africans who are leaving Africa and going for healthcare in India.
Because Africans don't even know how to appreciate what they have. Africans don't know what to appreciate what they have. So everything, I mean, look at it. It didn't recently that the UAE, you saw that? 17 African countries, they said, oh, we're banning you from coming here. Guess what? Because Dubai is part of UAE. Now, what is Africans doing? The size of Dubai is 13 square miles. It's not even 4 miles by 4 miles, because they have all these tall buildings and they light it up at night. And they do. I will not move to Dubai if you pay me. Again, that's one country that I want to go to. But Africans, because of their, the culture of low expectations, and always this sense of, the pasture is greener on the other side of the fence. They forget that they can do these things themselves. And then that's why everybody's insulting Africans. That's why everybody looks down at Africans. If you go to Cameroon, Nigeria, Kenya, because are there not Indians that are running these things? Have they even changed their name? Is any of them say, hey, I like it as China, Indian, and no, they still keep their name. That's why we get confused about a lot of them have never been to India, and a lot of them will not go to India. Just like a bunch of white people who are Germans, Irish, Norwegians, they're not going back there. So why are we not celebrating? Oh my God, a Norwegian man is the president of Bank of America. Why people have moved beyond those individual accomplishments. They are looking at institutional influence. They are looking at things that can control the world, that you can't take it down, but you could take. The guy you mentioned, who is the former mayor of London or whatever, Pakistani, who remembers him? Even when most British prime ministers leave office, who remembers them? The only former British prime minister who may have achieved some level of global presence was Tony Blair, because it was the time of the war, and he was collaborating with George Bush. Apart from that, when they leave office, who cares? And then the way they get voted, is he not a member of the parties get together and vote? And it's not everybody in Britain that votes for them. It's not like an American thing where we vote. This is more like a selection and not an election. So now he's got to go, the king will now say, go form a government. So they are subject. These people are subject. And so how is he going to be becoming a subject? He's not going to tell the king, hey, let's help India. They said that we didn't select you for that job. Okay, you better go do what we want, or you will have shorter than 45 days in office.
Yeah, but again, I mean, my bigger point is cut that away from India. I mean, we have had this conversation on this forum, isn't it? About
no, that's what I said. Look, Africans. Well, look, we can copy from ourselves. We've been to schools. We understand what time it is without the clock. We know what electricity does if you have it constantly and dependable. We know what currency can do. We know what passing legislation in our various countries can do. We also know that we need to recognize our regional proximity. Okay, if you're in Cameroon, why are you bothered about somebody in South Africa? Your proximity is Central African Republic, Nigeria, Chad. You know what I mean? The nearer the better. Proximity is love. I've said this many times. So why are you concerned about a guy in Egypt? They're too far, even though you are in a physical, the same continent, but you have to be concerned, love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Just like you're my homeboy. If I'm traveling, I ain't going to call you to watch my house. I'm going to call my neighbor. Say, hey, man, I'm going out of town. Would you look it for me? Even though you and I are homeboys, but you are too far. So our love is not proximate, bro.
So the thing that I wanted to point out, because just looking at our local let's take the American context, and that's what I was going to with Kamala Harris and all these people. The Indians have a great network amongst them, because look, going to tech, that tech sector,
because
most of the people
know how to. They I don't want to use a term, and I'm not going to use it. They know how to do this for themselves. I mean, look. You go to companies, you're not going to see one Indian. There are going to be a bunch of them. America looks for this, reasonable labor. I don't want to call it cheap labor, and the Indians are willing to do it. I mean, I had an Indian guy come to my house recently asking me to help him. I can give you tons of examples of Indians that I have interacted. And I'm not saying that they're not smart. I'm just saying that, I'm in a position most people approach me for so many things. It's just because we haven't learned how to do that. We haven't learned how to. Indians have this, remember again, India has a very strong caste system, and a lot of them, behave in a certain way. And they're very submissive people. They are very people that are loyal in a job. They are willing to stay there and do it and keep going. Fine for them. But I'm just saying, if you want to copy something, look at it. If I get into a job and I see an opportunity that I can recommend a fellow friend or a fellow whatever, why don't I do that? That's what the Africans don't do. The Africans are not willing to do it. Instead of, I'm the only one there, I'm the blah, blah, blah. And then let me give you an example. You've heard about a university called Clark Atlanta University. It's a black university in Atlanta, in Georgia. Okay.
Mhm.
A Nigerian guy was the dean of engineering back in 1995. He wouldn't bring in other Nigerian faculty members or African faculty members. He started hiring Indians. Because those dean job, is a rotational thing, depending on the university. When his tenure was up, guess what? The Indians voted him out, even though he was the one that recruited them. That's a good lesson. That's a good
Yeah,
lesson.
yeah. So back to my point, I think you are conceding there that again, that at least for the sake of this, there's something
I don't
that
need to copy that from an Indian. I'm just saying it's a natural thing that we as black people don't do. Okay, when I worked for FDIC, when I worked for Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation back in late 80s and early 90s, black people were not getting contracts there. And I went to my boss, a white guy. I said, well, how come? Because I was doing the contract, I've been in the country less than 4 years. And I said, hey, how come this is a federal agency or an agency that is, federally insured institutions? And say, how come black people are not getting anything here? He said, Edward, it's your thing. You the regional appraisal manager. What are you asking me to tell you to do? I went out and started speaking to black people, the black appraisers, the black property managers, asset managers. They still didn't believe me. One of them, Arnold Blair, he's passed away. Even though I have met him, through a group called NARAB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is the black aspect of brokers in national. I went to them because they had a local chapter. I said, hey, I'm the guy. They sent him to go and to verify that I'm the guy. Okay? The guy came to my office. Oh, I'm looking for Mr. Okpa. I'm sitting behind my desk and there's a nameplate. I'm looking for Mr. Okpa. He thought maybe I was, impersonating Mr. Okpa. And my nameplate is there. He's looking at when you sit in front of somebody, you see their name. And so I said, hey, somebody may have played a trick and put somebody's name over there. I picked it up, the nameplate, turn it around. Oh, I'm Mr. Okpa. That's it. That's me. How can I help you? He said, hey, man, you came and talked to us. I said, look, I don't have to lie when I have my facts. What can you do? And I was responsible. If anybody's doubting it, when Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation in 1989 or 90 produced the first video to promote diversity that everybody's talking about, diversity, equity, and inclusion, guess who was in that video? Your homeboy. They say, Edward, you have an accent. Don't say what I said. Don't worry, my image is good enough for anybody who knows. But it was there. It's on record. So why do I need to go and copy from an Indian or Pakistani or Lebanese or anybody else when I know what is right and I'm willing to do what is right?
Yeah, but you know that as Edward, but I don't think that most of us, many Africans,
because we don't trust each other. We don't
that's the point. What is it that is so connected to the Indians that we are missing, we Africans?
Because again, like I told you, that Indians are loyal people. They're very loyal. And when they see that you know it, they're willing to back you, they fall behind you, they'll do it. But if an African is doing it, especially if your homeboy, they say, that guy again. They try to see, oh yeah, for real. When I started my business, they said I have to be certified, the certification, black minority. I mean, a Nigerian guy who worked for the state of Texas had to come to Dallas, Texas to certify me. I said, oh boy, did you have to do that? You saw my last name is Okpa. It's AGK. And you still have to spend taxpayers' money to come. I said, okay, now take my blood. What type of blood are you looking for? I said, a black man is sent to go certify another black man that is okay. I mean, come on. These are things we don't push against. These are the things we allow, and we keep dehumanizing ourselves, believing the system is gonna correct it. No, the human beings make up the system. If there are certain things we don't like, then we rise and say, hey, we don't want this. And so my thing, the African immigrants, we should start now to recognize that some of us know certain things, and I don't have to like you, but if you're going to bring value to my community, I'm going to support you. Because Africans like this, oh, let's go talk to the elders. So, Africans said it. I don't know whether they say it in Cameroon. They say the walls of our elders are the walls of wisdom. Isn't it what they say?
Yes.
If you are old and stupid from young age, that stupidity don't go away when you become elder. Okay? So the words of our elders should not be the words of wisdom. Wisdom can come from anybody. I'm always looking for who has that wisdom. It could be an idea, it could be a concept. A developer sometimes is not the one that builds anything. He just has a vision for it. He hires the key people. Africans don't know how to recruit key people. Their ego gets in the way. And, I tell you, one time a Nigerian guy came to visit me. He said, hey, GK man, you need to go get a PhD. And I was like, for what? He said, we Nigerians love PhD. That if I come back to Nigeria, if I don't have a PhD, I may not get it. I said, well, if making money has to do with title, the PhD people will take all the money on the table. Okay? Then the PhD attempted will come behind them. Then the masters and the masters attempted. Before it gets to us who have high school diploma, there will be no money on the table. And I told him, I said, I don't need a PhD. I don't need a PhD. If that's what's going to give you the ego, the boost, the confidence, go for it. But I'm saying after you learn whatever you're going to learn, let's go put it to test. Let's go put it to test. But Africans, they're very interested in the papers. They pile up, but they're not interested in the practicality and being pragmatic about solving problems that the world is solving. And getting a credit for it and taking pride solving it. Why do we have to go to anybody to build roads for us? Indians? What? Please, give me an A student. I will copy from an A student, not an C student. India is a C country, and I'm not going to.
Well, the country may be C, but they're made up of A students.
Fine, just like me. I'm A student. Just like Indians come to me, some Indians have come to me for solution, and I have willingly given to them. Fine, individuals, we can do that. But if you're talking about countries, I don't want to copy anything the Indians are doing. Anything that India, not their form of government, not their type of religion, not their type of, caste system. The Patels, the people whose names are Patels. Mm-hmm. These are people in India that will not even be invited to dining table. Okay? But they come to America and they do well and they try to, improve all that. That's fine with them. But I'm just saying, we have what it takes to prove to ourselves that we can build our own society. If anybody now want to join us, you join us either as partners or venturers or collaborators, but we shouldn't be looking for people, a prime minister of England. England has lost its edge. It's just the old glory. I mean, that the people will still go into England. What comes out of it? They drive on the left-hand side of the road. We left them behind. Okay? We drive on the right-hand side. We are right. So
let me ask you, are you happy that, what's his name?
Rishi?
Yeah, no, give me 1 second. Kelechi Madu, Kelechi Madu has just been sworn in as the Deputy Prime Minister in Alberta in Canada. Kelechi Madu.
Okay, again, who goes to Canada? Yeah, I'm happy for him, but what does that mean actually? I mean, look, as Canadians, they have the French Canadians and the English Canadians. They copy. If you go to the Canadian currency or dollar, it still has the picture of the Queen or whatever on that currency. Yeah. Again, whatever anybody's doing in all this British style government don't do nothing for me. Kelechi, I don't even understand their form of government. But the thing is, what does that do for what? Because now Kelechi Madu is deputy, whatever the title is in Canada. I mean, okay, Canada is going to open up a trade for who? It's good. Look, that's where he is. That's the citizenship. Just like if I had become a member of Congress, do you think me becoming a member of Congress, I was going to go there and be agitating for Nigeria? I'll be agitating for the constituents, the people that voted me in there. Even though I have a Nigerian ancestry, Nigeria becomes secondary. Except Nigeria hires me to lobby for them. But they will not, I'm not when I'm a member of Congress. I'm a member of Congress for United States if I had been elected, not for Nigeria. So all this celebration because a Nigerian has, or an Indian has, or Ghanaian has, I'm just saying it's a misplaced excitement. I'm concerned about the Nigerian in Nigeria. What is the government there doing to improve their lifestyle, quality of life? Not that Ngozo Konjo-Iweala is a World Trade Center or whatever the guy's name from Ethiopia is over World Health Organization and the Kofi Annan. Okay, since Kofi Annan left as Secretary General of Ghana, isn't Ghana in trouble going around to IMF begging to bail them out? So what could, I mean, even if Kofi was alive, what could he have done? Nothing. He just had a job and he has a nice pension. He may have the best house if he had one in Ghana, but the millions of Ghanaians are trying to figure it out. So why are you celebrating him? Why are you celebrating anybody who just go work for and get a nice title? Just like people, first Nigerian was the Secretary General of OPEC. You know, the oil producing something. It was, Lukman Lawani, and the Nigerian was Secretary General of Commonwealth, Emeka Anyoko. Okay, I met the guy in Lagos. Okay, and then what? Sometimes let's him go run for president of Nigeria. I said the man has no clue what to run for. He was just a civil servant who just happened to have a nice, cushy job. He's not the one who is going. You see how we misplace things. Because you work at UN and World Bank, all of a sudden you're the master of what? No, those people are not. They're not the jobs we look for. We need for people that are practical, people who have to go in and change local laws, energize their country people, and said, "Hey, this is what we can do, and this is how we're going to do it." But not to be lining up on the street and going to the beer parlor and celebrating, one man in Africa is over this, over that. There's a United Nations University. I didn't even know there was such a thing that is based in Japan.
They're all over.
I think the new vice chancellor, or whatever they call that title, is like a Zimbabwean or South African. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't need to go there to learn 1+1. I learned it on a mango tree. I don't need to go to a UN university in Japan to learn that. But you could see how we just keep chasing everybody's thing while we're not building one. Why don't we have a credible university in Africa that other people can come? But we have to ship our own talent and send people over there so that we can say, oh, an African is.
Well, I mean, let's get back to I know you keep insisting that it has to be. I really think that the fact that we have a 42-year-old Indian immigrant, or I don't even.
He's not even an immigrant. He was born there.
Born there, yes.
That's an ancestry.
Yes, Indian heritage.
Okay,
and become the prime minister. But I think that there is something there that means. I mean, remember in this country, Martin Luther King said it comes to a point where nobody's judged now by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. And so we find that at least there's been some progression, isn't it? And I know you mentioned at the beginning, I mean, it's a point that maybe I may concede on that level, that, I mean, they have done this, but they still control power, isn't it? The people behind the scenes, they still have the power. Yet there is something in it.
Let me, you know how people say, oh, Lambert, you're a player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you play, you make a touchdown in case of American football, or you score goal in case of soccer, or basketball, you make a basket. And it's a player. I told people I have stopped playing. I want to be a referee. The referee calls the game. The white people, the Western culture have learned how to make us be players, but they are the referees. Okay, so a player can be kicked out of a game. No referee has ever been replaced, no matter how badly they operate. So they can kick out this guy, okay, because the referees, they're gonna call the game on the players. Okay, so quit being players, migrate to the level of being a referee. We Africans want to play, and they always look for this thing about I'm looking for a leveled playing field. Find your field, level it, and play on it, and make your rules. That's what the world will respect. Or if you can become the referee, foul or fair. Okay, sometimes you watch NFL games, and sometimes after the game they say, "Oh, the referee officiated badly," but nobody replaced the referee. But the player, You do bad thing, they say go to the locker room, go watch the game from the TV. So migrate to being a referee, forget being played. We've been playing all this time. I'm just saying. And the way you become that referee is that you take control and charge of the issues in your country, and you begin to engage your local population, and they advance the content of their livelihood to where it's on the positive, even if it goes down, but not to where you're celebrating somebody who has a job 8 to 5 at the World Bank, IMF, UNN, UE, and all of those people. No, let's build our own corporations. Let's build corporations that we can buy shares in. Of all these companies you mentioned, the Indians didn't start it. They just happened to have migrated to the executive office, but and India didn't start Microsoft. And India didn't start a whole bunch of this company, everybody's jumping up and down. If I had started an FDIC, who knows, I could have maybe migrated to the top. Because I was pretty good at what I did, but I wanted to go out and fend for myself. A bunch of Indians where you live, go to black neighborhood. What job are they doing? Convenience stores, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Convenience stores.
They own them. We don't own them.
No, that's why. But we don't do anything like that. They go into a black neighborhood and they own convenience stores. So compete with them. Go across the street, open your own. If they're charging you $5 for something, charge your own people $4.99. If they go to $4.99, go for the $4.95, and then that's how they will respect you. I don't care about them being CEO of Microsoft or all of those things. Don't really mean anything, because you and I are invested in these companies. Either through our mutual funds or we bought the stocks or whatever. So they don't own the company. At any time the boss get together, how many? Okay, the boss of those countries, are they controlled by Indians?
No, not at all.
No, they just happen to put them there. Oh, hey, wasn't a black guy the CEO of American Express? Remember? Ken Chelnaut or something. Google him. Okay? It wasn't. I can tell you many companies black people have been CEOs of. Hey, J.C. Penney, a black guy, was CEO. But guess what? When they got tired of him, he didn't even last long. It is the board of directors, and they are the what? Board of directors, what are they? Referees.
Yeah, so
they'll keep you out. They'll get you out of there in a minute.
But it's not, again, I think in this context,
I'm happy for the guy. I don't want you to think I am happy for him, but
of course I know that.
I don't put any collateral value on him being prime minister. Just like even if he was a Nigerian guy or if he's from my village, I don't care, because you know what? He's not going to take money from Britain to go to Nigeria. So I'm going to put light and roads. He can do it because the law will not let him do it. So why are you celebrating what at the end of the day has nothing to do with improving your life? If he's motivating you, let that motivate you so that you can do it for your own people. But not to say, oh my God, Nigerian is not a member of the parliament. That doesn't mean anything. Look at why people have been doing this. How many times you see people in Norway, Germans celebrate, a German in America. They don't care. They don't care.
Well, maybe because they own. But so do you want to take away the fact that this initiative, or call it this appointment, is something that should inspire others to be able to see that, okay.
I said yes. Yeah, okay. I said yes. Once you take the citizenship of that country, you should focus on that country. You should focus on it. Just like I tell people, if you don't claim America, America will not claim you. The guy, he that's the only place he knows. That's where he spent his 45 years. He probably got elected as member of parliament and do all of that. And, becoming a British prime minister is really not a very challenging political thing to do, because it's amongst your members that pick you. And then when they pick you, you have to go to the king or the queen, the king this time, to say, okay, go form a government. That's it. It's not like in America where you have to, even in Nigeria, where you have to campaign nationwide. So the British one is more like a selection, not an election. That's why 45 days, that woman got out, Boris
Disperse.
Boris Johnson or whatever his name is,
Mhm.
so who knows how long this one is going to. If you start to do the Hindu thing at 10 Downing Street, you start to like him
Well,
over there.
the parliamentary system, I think after some time they will have to go to election. But again, I just wanted to paint that picture that we talked about. Indians, there's one thing that you have always mentioned on this show. Give me any university where an African has not been to. There's none that I know of. Africans are everywhere, and in fact, I would say instead of putting it Africa, give me a university where a Nigerian has not been to. The Nigerians,
Whomever is that brand for Africa, that's fine. But I'm just saying, we are not, the world didn't just wake up and say, oh my God, look at Africa. We suppose that for those who get into the history of such stuff, that Africa is the continent that has, they founded the oldest human, whatever. So Africa has been here. But how come the grandfather is now the doormat? How come? And I'm talking about the sub-Saharan, the people in the north of Africa may feel somewhere. But the sub-Saharan, you take the 49 countries that are in the sub-Saharan Africa and you point to one that has figured it out or is on the way to figure it out. That we talk about, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
Okay. Africa hasn't even gotten into the tunnel to think about light at the end of it. Okay. You have to get in the tunnel and be digging to know there's an end. We haven't even started that. We're just looking for something to make us feel good, something to be excited about, any little thing. Even people throw a lot of party for graduation. You know that? Africans,
Yeah.
when you graduate here, there's a party, people are inviting you. You know what I told my kids? The only time I will celebrate you for graduation is I never thought you would graduate. I will say, oh my God, you just finally figured out how to graduate. But if you graduate, you better go get a job. I ain't doing no party for you, okay? But every little thing, Africans are celebrating. Is it not? Yeah. If a man, if a woman, is having a stomach upset, the husband wants to please her, oh, I want to do a party for you. Every little thing is a party. And we are missing the big picture of what the world is looking for from the continent and from people who come from the continent. Whether we are blacks in Caribbean, blacks in America, blacks in the incontinent, they are looking for something. Until the black person in America feels very confident about the country that they too have helped to build and not keep looking for this apology, sympathy, and this. The black person anywhere in the world will not feel that they have to, reason. Because, what are the black people doing? And it's justified. Oh, you enslaved us, you did this, you did that. Okay. Okay, and I said, what would make a black person whole? What would you want? Okay, of all the things that was done to your great-great-grandfather, however back you want to go, what would make you whole now that you are 40 years or 20 years? What is it? A check? How much money? Is it a degree? Okay, we're going to print one for you and make it for real so that you have a title of whatever you want. Is that what is going to make us whole? Because I have neglected that we have to rejuvenate, we have to transform, we have to be very unapologetic about what it is that we want for our people. And it goes back to the leadership in continent. You talk about this gold thing, what do the Ghanaians do with gold? Put it on their neck. What do black people do? You see black entertainers on their neck. Why don't you put down those gold and borrow money at a very cheap interest rate? Instead, you see them on their whatever, That's like, come on, folks. Put up all those gold and said, okay, you want to lend us money? This is the collateral. If you don't pay, you take it. But we like to do what? Put it in there. You go to their home, it's all shine, gold chairs, gold. They want to, when they die, they want a gold-plated coffin. There have been some coffin thieves. Once those people are buried, they go over there, remove that thing, throw it there, go sell the coffin. What? Come on. Or you let Chinese people come over there or whomever come over there, take your gold and you keep them quiet. Come on, Lambert. How many times will something happen to you and you wisen up? How many times? That's the question. It has nothing to do with these other people. Remember in the 80s or something, Indians were coming to Africa looking for jobs, flooding, because nothing was going on in India. And a lot of them, again, were born in Africa. That is all they know. But the difference that they kept their name. They don't usually change their name. But a lot of them are pure Africans. That's all they know. They may have migrated to other parts of the world. So India is because of the name that they show, or the religion. Just like a white man who left Norway, came here and then still can trace that. But this is where they are. This is what they know. So I'm just saying, clap for the person. Thank you. Wow. I'm impressed by what you've done. And then look back and go to the shop and look at the price of the bread. Has it changed?
Yeah,
Because
the price of bread might have changed for the new guy, but not for all of us, because
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why am
he
I
may
celebrating, why am I celebrating money in your pocket? It's not in mine.
Yeah. So again, now I looked at the thing about technology and Africa, technology and India, and again, it's kind of surprising as to how far. The one thing that also shocked me: Indians in America, the Indian Americans, they really became famous here in the 2000s. That
Yes.
means the way they flocked in. That's around the same period that we Africans too. And I think they say there are about 4.5 million Indians in the United States.
Let me
That's
tell you.
almost the
Let me
same.
tell you the strategy they used. You know, there are a lot of them. They are very good in math. Have you seen an Indian playing football? I mean, they play cricket, but no India has gotten into the hockey or basketball or football. The American sport. That's fine. They know they're not physically able to do that. Okay. So they have a lot of them. They are taught in their native language. So the sciences and stuff they know, because science actually is a subject for the working class people. That's one thing you can do to get out of poverty. Okay. The British tradition says gentlemen don't study science. Okay. They study philosophy, the soft subjects, law, real estate. But the people who want to improve their own chances, they are the engineers and, all this sort of hard subject. That's fine. So back in the late 90s or 80s, the Indians started wooing American companies. Hey, we have these engineers and the job, it's harder to employ them because they were not creating jobs. But these people were just churning out a great number of whether they are well trained or half trained. And they convinced and they said, hey, why don't you open a plant? Why don't you hire these people to come in for a fraction? Because back then, to hire an American engineer was like $60,000 or $80,000. But you could hire an Indian engineer for for $6,000. So American people started to say, oh my God, look at that gap. So I can afford to hire 10 engineers in India for what I pay for one American engineer. So they started using them to do this, do whatever. Just like even your car, when you call sometimes for your credit card, who is
Yes.
answering the phone is somebody in India, you could tell by the accent. And if you ask them, I tell you, it's because they started wooing American companies. And American companies, in order to, when they started that outsourcing thing, India became a beneficiary. Okay. And the software engineer, these software engineers, it's not about code and figuring things out. If somebody's trying to do that, they can do that all day long. Okay. So America said, hey, we're going to save money, and they saved money. And then they started bringing them over. But now, if you get in line to get a F1 visa for India, it's like 6 or 7 years because they don't do that anymore. Okay? So
they get all the H-1B visas.
but it takes them long. It takes them long. But that's the strategy. No African nation did that. 1992, I approached Nike. Okay? Nike based out of Seattle. Because there's a village in Enugu State, or Enugu is where I was born, that it has the same name, Nike. But it's spelled Nike. It's pronounced Nike, not Nike. So I approached Nike and I said, hey guys, how cool would it be to have Nike shoes made in Nike, in Nike.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh my God, that's such a cool commercial. We want to do it. 1992. That was when Babangida, 1990, 90, yeah, 1990, 1991, 92. That was when Babangida, I have been in the country for about 6 years. Okay. So, but I was already thinking economic development. What can I do? What can I take home? And if I take it home, who can I work with at home? You know what, Lambert? They sent me everything. They said, if you can build a plant of 100,000 square feet, we'll come there and license it. Because I told them, I said, the Nike produce in Nike doesn't even have to be exported to Africa. I mean, the US. You could just sell it to African country. We'll have an athletic village. We'll do this. We'll do. They were eating off my hand. They sent me everything. I contacted the then governor of Enugu State, one Mr. Wodo, WODO. I said, look, here's a great opportunity. You know what they were wearing? Well, how much am I bringing? That's what is killing Africa. Before they can even understand what the opportunity is, they're thinking about 10%. Either, you're going to bribe me? And that's when I swore, even before then, I will never bribe anybody for what I know is going to benefit the community. And that's what is killing a lot of the African nations. It's not that people don't want to go there and produce. It's just that when you take it there, they want to, okay, hey, what's my cut? What are you going to do? So we got to change that. Because, can you imagine if that company had gone? Like I told you, I'm not moving back to Nigeria, but I can work with Nigerians or Cameroonians or Kenyans in order to facilitate things. Okay? To make it as the bridge. What are the most important aspects of a bridge, Lambert? Is the landings where they touch the ground. Anything in between are columns. So we are here. All of us, if all of us vacate and go to Nigeria, we have lost the bridge. There won't be any more. So they should encourage us to be here as long as there's a flow. And they recognize, hey, you are the source of this thing. We work with you. Put you on a board. When the companies start making, you make enough money. I mean, is anybody going home, going to meet God with all the cash? When Jesus was here, how much money did Jesus have in his bank account? Can anybody tell me? They can tell me what Jesus said, but nobody can tell me, well, Jesus had an account at Bank of Jerusalem. Because there was no such.
There was none. So Walters is my friend and classmate. Walters says, Lambert, kudos to your show and efforts. Your guest, Mr. Okpa, I notice is very visionary. He's very engaging and pragmatic, in my opinion. You are welcome to this show, Walters. So again, I was driving to work this morning and I was listening to some message I think is put out by a Nigerian who was advising African men, and his point was.
Well, say thank you to Walter. He's a fan already.
Yes, Walter is. He's in Florida. He's a pharmacist.
Okay. Well, hey, I now know where to go get me my legal drugs.
Right. So the guy was saying that most African men who are here, they spend time working and building homes in Africa, and end up dying without even going. And he gave a series of examples and ended up saying, when he put out the first audio, people abused him and said, "Do you and we will do all." But my point is, this show today has been focused on how to appreciate the value of these little appointments. And the point you have been making is, yes, they are good. Clap for them. They have done it. That's fine. But how is that related to how is that helping in the development of their country? And so I'm kind of torn. Would you want us to spend time here and be working and building, or we should be developing ourselves here, and in the process of developing ourselves, we hope that something happens for the continent? Where are you?
Well, here's what it is. Okay, for those of, I read the Bible when I was 17. I told you I'm not going to read it again. I got it one time. I'm done. Isn't it in the Bible that says something like, nobody serves two masters at the same time and end up
correct. Correct.
Okay, I mean, you were in the seminary, so you know this thing better than I do. I'm just paraphrasing. But what I'm saying is that there's a time, when you look at depreciation schedules, there are the physical, chronological, and then there's the economic and the remaining economic life. Remaining, so you can be 100 years, but are you physically able to do a lot of things? So your legacy is the remaining economic life. What are you living? I think I sent you an article that said nobody inherits your degree, but they can inherit what the degree has produced. So Africans don't want to produce where they are because they are torn about, oh, my village people, as if they are mercenaries. It's only Africans are the immigrant mercenaries. They have this thinking, I got to do something over there. I owe my, that's like when Nigerians come to me and said, when I was buying my ticket, he was in the village, he would have bought the ticket. So I don't owe them anything. If I want to do something, I'll do at my time, but I'm not going to be feeling obligated to rescue them when they haven't said, hey, we recognize you have mentally migrated to where I think you know how to solve, address some issues. Can you come sit down and talk with us? Africans never say, come sit down and talk with us. This is what we're working on. Do you think we can do anything differently to get a better mileage? They wouldn't do that. Instead, you go to the village for somebody who has never left the village because they made him some local chief, and he's going to begin to tell you, see, kneel down, bow to me, this is our tradition. I said, hey, you didn't used to wear clothes. Okay? Your tradition is that. Why don't you just go naked? Okay? Because you're telling me, the clothes you're wearing, you didn't even do the fabric. So your tradition has to be abandoned, and set aside if it's not producing for the people. The Africans have had this confusion they have to attach to their tradition and culture, and that is why they even left. If the tradition and culture are so good, we wouldn't leave. We would have stayed there. So, hey, you don't leave the source of water to go to the mouth of the river. You don't need, the source of the river is the fresh water. So what I'm saying is, let us just recognize, okay, we are here, either by design or default. How do we maximize our presence in order to be relevant to ourselves, to the geography where we are? You're going about people building houses in the village. I always laugh at that. You live in an apartment, but you have a mansion in your village. I mean, how stupid is such a thing? Okay, why don't you mortgage that house? Okay? And see how much Nigerian banks will lend you on your so-called mansion. Oh, I'm building for my kids so that when the kids are not going home. How many of them have gone home? In fact, sometimes, the kids don't even know their father is building a house or their mom is building a house in the village. And then I say, oh, the man dies. The village people are calling the kid. They say, oh, your father's house is falling apart. What do you say? Can you guys sell it? Sell it. Keep your cost of sale and a commissioner send me the balance. They say, oh no, you can't sell in the village. It's our tradition. The kids said, then keep it. Stop calling me. They have no interest. Lambert, if the early Americans, the early immigrants that came to this country, if they never gave up of where they came from to focus on where the country they helped to build or they built, if it was Africans, America will not be what it is. How many of us would have come to America if Africa is being run by native Africans? We will not come. How many of us would come if it was run by Mexicans? Oh, how many of us would come if it was native Indians? The ones that are dancing and doing the federal thing. They wouldn't come. So we have to give credit to the white people who came here. Yes, they did some things that today we look at as oh my God, but they forget where they came from and they built a new country. We should join them in making this country, even though it's the best country in the world, we should join them in making it better by looking at the foundation and making sure that foundation is stronger and is able to accommodate all of us. But not to start telling, oh, I'm Nigerian, I got to wear this 2-story hair tie. That's why even when you go to church, nobody sees the pastor because, he's sitting behind it, a woman who has this 2-story stuff on their head. Because that's the only time they look glamorous and ceremonious. Shoot, God can even see you worshiping him under a mango tree. Why do you have to go over there and look all these flamboyant and flowery? We have got the wrong priorities. Building a house in the village, taking a village title. When you become an American citizen, you're supposed to denounce foreign titles. You're not supposed to have foreign titles once you take an American citizenship. So all these Africans that are, one day I said, maybe I need to sue them. I said, hey, don't do it. And when you sue them, they're probably going to say, abandon the village title. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what is going on there. Got disconnected or what?
No, yeah, yeah. I mean, I see myself, but for a second you were.
Oh man, this is crazy. So I think we got connected.
You good?
Yes.
No, no, I'm just saying, the tradition that we all emphasize is all good, but it comes to a point in our life, and you got to say, hey, what's the value of this stuff? Is it our kids? Our kids are not picking up on it. If Obama's father was in his life when he was there, I don't think Obama would have become president of America, because he would have been talking Kenya, 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 you this, you that, and confusing the kid. We have to recognize, they say the saying, when you're in Rome, behave like the Romans. Not only should you behave like the Romans, you should be better than the Romans, because that way they will recognize you. But if you start to go over there and tell the Romans, oh, I need to have a brother, I'm a chief in my village, and you meet the Nigerian parties. You can't even shake their hand, because they have one stick, something in their hand, and they have this fan thing they have. And when you want to come shake their hand, they want to do all this stuff. And it's like, who wants to do that? I want to shake a man's hand and not the whatever it is they have. In America, when they see you that way, they cancel you out. They know you're not here to be an American. Mentally, that's how they will not say anything to you. They just move on. But how many of those people dress like that and go to work at City of Baltimore? Come on, I want to see the chief. I want to see the chief. There's a Nigerian chief that came to City of Dallas one time to go see the mayor. This is real story, okay, from my village. People took him over there. So he in Igbo land, if you want to give somebody something with left hand, it's like, he said no. In America, they don't care. So this guy sitting in the mayor's reception area, that he was going to. So the mayor assistant before the meeting came in and, hey, what do you want? Does anybody want something? He said he wanted water. They got him a glass of, brought him some water. And the mayor's assistant was handing this chief something with the left hand. And the chief was like thinking he's in his village. And the lady, hey, that's water. Do you want it or not? And somebody said, oh, we don't give something with left hand. He said, I'm not in your village. Do you want the water or not? And the chief grabbed it and said, if you don't want it, I'm taking it back. See, the Oni of Ife, the so-called the chief of Ife people or Yoruba people, went to California. I'll send you the picture. Maybe next time we use it as a topic. Okay? When he got over there, he had to go sit at the baggage claim, the carousel, to wait for his luggage. If he was in Nigeria, because these people don't have a diplomatic passport. He came in, oh, I'm a chief. They said, where from, sir? Would you fall in line and go over there, go get your bag? And he did.
I think the Nigerian people did not do him well. They ought to have prepared the.
I'm just saying, the thing is, you carry this exaggerated ego, exaggerated title, and then you think the world, just like the Nigerian senator who is now being locked up in the UK for human, participating in an organ trafficking or something. You don't, Nigerians, like my wife keeps saying, they don't recognize boundaries. They think because they are chief in their village, everybody should, kind of roll down for them. And even me that is a Nigerian, if you go with this chief, I say my father did it when he carried weight. Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, we can okay, Tunde, Otobola, and Ahmed, everybody can be a chief in Nigeria. There was a Nigerian chief, you know what? He came here to give chieftaincy title to people. $300 in a Motel 6 room. They go kneel down and they give them a chief. And I was like, You came to America for that? You came to America for what? Is it 600 or 500?
Even if it's 1,000, it's still
Even if
ridiculous.
it's free, even if it's free, I'm not taking it. Because you will keep devaluing. Look, what has this got to do with the fact we don't have roads built? Our hospital systems are not working. People are not paid. The president takes money and does whatever the president wants to do. Infrastructure is collapsing, but people are concerned about the chieftaincy title they have. And when anything happens, people are running to the World Bank or UN to go help them. They're watching your people. They're watching you. After the World War II, was it not Europeans who came here and became white people that went there and cleaned up Western Europe? Was it not? When they told when they took down the Berlin Wall, was it not Americans that did it? Some of them were Germans or English or French. They said, we don't want this, take it down, collapse it. Okay, Africans are still looking to divide up their countries, but East and Western Germany unified. You see? Because Americans get in there. So we are the ones that are fortunate to be in this country. We should be the ones that are going over there and saying, hey, guys, cut this thing out. This is not working. It's about infrastructure, about the quality of life for people that are here. Don't expect me to come. I'm not coming. You are invested. You have family here. All of a sudden, you're going to shut it down, and then you're going to go over there and be a minister or president. You're going to be a round peg in a square hole. And then everybody that are there is going to look at you with jealousy, and they're going to frustrate you because you come in there to do something straight. They're not going to let you do it. All of a sudden, you know what happens when you becoming a stubborn person, and then maybe your wife. How many African women are going home with their husband? Do a study on it, because they don't want to go. Because when they go now, you want them to be village women cooking for you every time. They say, no, we're not going. You go, and then the African man runs home to go become minister alone. Are you leaving a goat to go inside the yam barn? And you think the goat is going to watch the yam?
Of course not.
It's not going to do. It's not going to happen. So we have to be realistic about our situation.
Right. So Okpa, thank you very much. Today we have been examining the recent appointment of the new prime minister, who happens to have Indian heritage, and we're just drawing some lessons for Africa. Okpa says there's nothing that he can learn from India because India is a sea country. He's happy for the gentleman, but there's nothing to celebrate there. But also for us African immigrants, we need to pull back and look at what to do to improve on our own lot too. There's a lot that we need to learn, get our acts together so that we can build the continent. Any last words, Okpa?
Well, again, you've made me to be addicted to this Wednesday talk. Because I've seen the benefit of. There are people that reach out to me. We had the other day, we had a chat night. I appreciate it. This is a conversation for me. It's not a debate. I don't know more than anybody, but Lambert, I know what not to do. I'm not going to live on earth for more than how many years. And even if I do, how effective would I be? We're talking about how effective can we be? How can our presence in the world most recognized, greatest country translate to tangible value for ourselves here first, and then by extension over there? It's not celebrating a Nigerian having a job at U.S. Treasury Department or World Bank. It's going to be those of us who are on the outside, who are business people, entrepreneurs, who can create companies, influence those companies to have shops or branches over there. The guy who works for U.S. Department of Treasury is not going to have a U.S. Treasury Department branch in Africa. He can do it. The guy who works for the World Bank, except for the stupid African countries that are going to have a country director of a World Bank. We should build our own financial institutions. We should make them be responsive to the economic development of the region or the country that they are in. And we should not be running around the whole world looking for money when by sovereign right, our currency or the currency of every country is theirs. You should not agree to devaluation. If I want your shirt and you say $10, I shouldn't come in and devalue it and say, well, I'll give you mine. Mine is $100, but yours is worth $5. We shouldn't do that. Stand up. The world don't stoop to conquer, Lambert. Stand to conquer. If you are slapped, please don't turn the other cheek. Punch. Okay? Because in physics, it says action and reaction are equal and opposite. So if you slap me and I slap you, I'm doing the same thing. I'll punch your face because that's a reaction and it's opposite to the other one. And that's what is going to get you respect. Stop begging. Stop being a doormat. What did my mom tell me? If you become a doormat, two things will happen to you. What? Stepped on or stepped over. I think God will be mad at me if I become a doormat to anybody. I ain't going to be that. So that's my closing word. I am the reason they say don't mess with Texas, even though I wasn't born here. Don't mess with me.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, always exciting listening and sharing these Wednesdays with you. You can always go back on our YouTube channel or you can watch on our LinkedIn page. We have all these videos past year, but join us. Let's continue building the community. Let's maximize our presence here so that it becomes useful first for ourselves and then for our communities.
Yes.
Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thank you.